Greetings, blood sugar warriors. Have you ever wondered which fruits are best for diabetics? Yes, I have. I chose to carry out a small experiment to find out for myself. Over the course of 20 days, I consumed all 7 of the most popular fruits that I had purchased. Each fruit separately. I measured the amount of jump in my blood sugar an hour after eating each fruit. I didn't stop there, though. I also investigated each fruit's glycemic index, or GI, as well as its fiber and carbohydrate contents. My objective was to ascertain whether these nutritional values and my blood sugar response were clearly related. And I think I've uncovered a winner after extensive testing. It's in this bowl, right here. Just a quick disclaimer before we dive in. I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. I'm simply someone who has been living with diabetes for 35 years and wants to share my personal experience to help others. To make things easier, I decided to sort these 7 fruits into 3 categories, based on how they affected my blood sugar. I call these categories buckets. Let's start with bananas. Bananas are well known for being a good source of vitamin B6 and potassium. They're often considered a convenient, healthy snack. But what did they do to our blood sugar levels? An average banana contains about 23 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams. After subtracting 3 grams of fiber, we're left with around 20 grams of net carbs. That's quite a lot of carbs, especially for someone managing diabetes. It's important to remember a basic rule: the more carbohydrates you consume, the bigger the potential spike in blood sugar. I then examined the glycemic index. The GI indicates the rate at which a food raises blood sugar. A food with a higher GI will cause your blood sugar to rise more quickly. Although bananas don't have a very high GI, around 51, their large carbohydrate content causes them to elevate blood sugar levels considerably. During my experiments, I noticed just that. My blood sugar rose noticeably and rather quickly after eating a banana. Now, this doesn't mean you have to avoid bananas forever. But it does mean that portion control is key. For example, eating half a banana might be perfectly fine for most people with diabetes. However, eating 2 or 3 bananas in one sitting is likely to cause problems. If you're insulin dependent like I am, it's important to monitor how much insulin you need for the banana, and just as importantly, when you take that insulin. Timing can make a big difference in managing post-meal blood sugar levels. Let's move on to apples. Apples are a great source of vitamin C and a variety of important minerals. They're also lower in carbs than bananas. An average apple contains about 14 grams of carbs per 100 grams. Subtracting 2 grams of fiber gives us around 12 net carbs. That's a better number, but for me, it's still in the middle range. Personally, I consider fruits with less than 10 net carbs per 100 grams to be ideal. Fruits with 10 to 15 net carbs are okay but not my top choice. Apples fall right into that okay range. As for the GI, the American Diabetes Association recommends choosing foods with a GI under 55. My personal preference is even stricter. I try to aim for a GI under 40 when possible. Apples come in at a GI of 39, which is actually pretty good. Nevertheless, there was a discernible rise in my blood sugar when I checked it after eating an apple. Although it wasn't as high or sharp as what I observed with bananas, it was still present. For this reason, I think apples are a middling choice. As long as I closely monitor my insulin dosage and timing, I can eat one medium-sized apple without experiencing too much anxiety. My blood sugar stays within range and doesn't increase excessively if I manage those elements properly. Now let's talk about grapes. Grapes are one of the most popular fruits around. They're packed with antioxidants and are incredibly refreshing, especially on a hot summer day. But they're also quite sweet. Grapes contain about 18 grams of carbs per 100 grams. With only 1 gram of fiber, we're left with 17 net carbs. That's a lot, particularly for people trying to manage their blood sugar. The glycemic index of grapes is about 59, which is relatively high. It's important to keep in mind that the GI of fruit can vary depending on ripeness, origin, and other factors. For instance, very ripe, sweet grapes might have a GI close to 70, while underripe, sour grapes might be below 50. But based on trusted sources and my own testing, the average GI tends to be on the higher side. When I tested grapes myself, I saw a fast and significant spike in blood sugar, often within 40 minutes. That confirmed my concerns. Grapes are delicious, but they're not blood sugar friendly in large quantities. So they land firmly in the high-risk category for me. If you're going to eat them, be very mindful of how many you consume. Let's move on to a favorite of mine, strawberries. Fresh strawberries contain almost 90% water and have a pleasant, delicious texture. Their carbohydrate content is comparatively low as a result. After deducting the 2 grams of fiber, they have around 8 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams, leaving us with only 6 net grams of carbohydrates. For those of us who are keeping an eye on our blood sugar, that is a fantastic figure. Their GI is around 39, which is within my personal target range. When I tested strawberries, I saw only a mild and slow blood sugar rise. It was very manageable. Because of that, I feel comfortable eating strawberries freely, as long as I count the carbs and dose my insulin accordingly. I don't worry much about portion size when it comes to strawberries. One word of caution, though. Many people love blending strawberries into smoothies. While that might taste great, it changes how your body processes the fruit. Blending breaks down the fiber, which increases the GI and makes the sugars absorb faster. That leads to a bigger blood sugar spike compared to eating the whole fruit. So whenever possible, stick to whole strawberries. Let's move on to oranges. Oranges are loaded with vitamin C and other powerful antioxidants. They're very nutritious, but how do they affect blood sugar? An average orange contains around 12 grams of carbs per 100 grams. Subtracting 2 grams of fiber gives us 10 grams of net carbs. That's on the lower end of the moderate range. The GI of oranges is about 45. This is below the ADA recommendation of 55, but a bit higher than my personal preference. During my experiment, eating oranges caused my blood sugar to rise moderately within an hour. It wasn't as mild as strawberries, but it wasn't any worse than what I observed with bananas or grapes. Oranges are therefore a fruit I consider to be in the middle. I occasionally eat one entire orange, and it typically works out okay as long as I take the appropriate amount of insulin. But here's a common trap. Orange juice. A single glass of orange juice often contains the sugar from 2 or 3 oranges, but none of the fiber. The GI is also much higher. That makes it a very poor choice for people trying to manage their blood sugar. My strong recommendation is to avoid juice and stick with whole oranges instead. Now let's talk about watermelon. This fruit is extremely popular, especially during the summer. But watermelon can be tricky. Some sources say it's a great fruit for diabetics, while others say to avoid it completely. So what's the truth? Watermelon contains about 8 grams of carbs per 100 grams, which sounds great at first. But it's made up of about 92% water and contains very little fiber. That means the sugar it does have hits your bloodstream very quickly. The glycemic index of watermelon is around 76, the highest of all the fruits I tested. When I ate a small bowl of watermelon, my blood sugar rose quickly but not dramatically. However, when I ate a larger portion, it spiked all the way to 200 in just 30 minutes, even though I had taken insulin with the meal. That's a big red flag. For me, large portions of watermelon are a no-go. That said, I'm not suggesting you completely give up watermelon. It just means you need to watch your portion size carefully. One helpful tip is to eat watermelon after a meal rich in fiber and healthy fats. That slows down the digestion process, so your body absorbs the sugar more gradually. That can help reduce the blood sugar spike. Finally, let's talk about avocado. Technically a fruit, avocado is rich in healthy fats, fiber, and essential nutrients. It contains about 12 grams of carbs per 100 grams, which might sound high. But here's the incredible part, 10 of those grams come from fiber. That means there are only 2 net carbs in 100 grams of avocado. That's exceptional. Even more impressive, avocados have a GI of just 15. That's incredibly low. I ate avocados multiple times during this experiment, and my blood sugar barely moved. Even after eating 2 avocados in one sitting, I didn't see any significant spike. That makes avocado one of the safest and most blood sugar-friendly fruits I've ever tested. I eat avocado freely and don't need insulin for it. I enjoy it in salads, on toast, and especially as homemade guacamole. One thing to note is that avocado is high in calories. A medium avocado contains around 240 calories, mostly from healthy fats. That's not an issue for me right now, since I'm not trying to lose weight. But it's something to consider if you're watching your calorie intake. You probably clicked on this video because you wanted to know which fruit I consider the best for people with diabetes. Now that we've gone through all the testing, we have several great options. But choosing the best one is a little more personal than just looking at the numbers. The best fruit for you should not only be low in net carbs and have a low GI, but it should also be something you truly enjoy eating. If it doesn't taste good or you don't look forward to eating it, you're less likely to include it in your regular diet. For me, the clear winner is avocado. There's nothing that beats a good homemade guacamole spread on a slice of blood sugar-friendly bread. It tastes amazing, fills me up, and doesn't spike my blood sugar. That combination is hard to beat. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.